Just a little warning before the video starts. There is at least one jump scare randomly thrown in here, so be prepared for that. Hello everybody, my name is Lance, and I'm a horror fan. The genre does get a bit stale after a while though. You can only see so many people get thrown at a wall by a ghost or sliced up by a crazed maniac before it just kind of becomes dull. I could probably go down some disturbing movie rabbit hole to find something that I'm not desensitized to, but instead, I decided to take this opportunity to re-examine what feeling scared is actually like. Fortunately, Japan always seems to have some interesting twists on whatever I'm interested in, so I watched a handful of Japanese horror movies, and this is what I came up with. Well, the dream fell apart almost instantly because I realized I've already experienced Japanese horror quite a bit actually, just not in movie form. Back when I was a young lad, the peak of me getting scared at stuff, my family would sit down for dinner every night and watch the anime Inuyasha. In episode 24, we are introduced to a new character, Sango, and we get to see her whole Demon Slayer village get killed in this episode. And this scene basically just consists of this little kid getting controlled by a demon with strings, and he just slashes people to death. And this scene alone should not really be scary. There's like no gore, you don't get jump scared. This isn't strange for the show. The entire show is about killing demons and demons killing people. But regardless, it scared little me. And it turns out that this scene is scary for the exact same reasons that many of the movies I watched are. And that would be suspense. That was scary, wasn't it? I have a certain sibling who likes to try and jump scare me in real life. And yes, it gets me for a second, but the instant after, I am seeking violence. It is a valid way of creating horror, but the second after, I'm left there feeling cheated, and all of the tension is gone. An alternative is to take that tension that's building up that would lead to a jump scare and just hold on to it, and don't resolve it at all. A good use of this suspenseful approach can be seen in Ring and The Grudge. In Ring, you have Sadako climbing out of the TV and slowly moving towards the character. In The Grudge, you have Kayako crawling down the stairs towards characters. In both of these scenes, the scary thing is just coming at you, and it never ends up in a jump scare. The whole scene, you're anticipating what the thing will do when it gets to you. And then at the end of the scene, nothing happens. Would it have been scary if she had just jumped out of the TV, for example? Probably yes. But the fact that they are crawling at you for so long and doing nothing creates a different kind of horror. And this tension doesn't even have to resolve in something scary. The most comedic and action-packed movie I watched was Tokyo Gore Police. This movie is pretty ridiculous. At one point, a man's legs get chopped off, and he proceeds to use the blood spouting from it to jetpack himself around. And a movie where that happens is still able to build a lot of suspense. There are multiple shots of the main character standing in some big open area with like Gregorian chanting in the background, and it leaves you waiting for whatever demon monstrosity she's about to face. In this case though, the resolution ends up not being very scary. All of the evil, scary looking things in this movie are just ridiculous enough to not actually be scary. And then it kind of leaves you with this funny feeling of like, why am I getting so tense? Like, why are my muscles like tightening up over this comedy movie? And it's something very interesting to realize. Sometimes this build-up happens and I don't even know what I'm supposed to feel by the end. House is a great example of this. The first part of this movie is just regular schoolgirls going on a trip, but the lighting, the acting, and the visual effects make it seem very over dramatized and fake in a way that is almost uncanny valley. Like, I can't even tell if the first part of this movie is supposed to be creepy, but there's like 30 minutes of the movie where it's just the schoolgirls laughing the entire time, and knowing this is a horror movie, it's unsettling. Then the second half of this movie happens and it turns into a bad psychedelic trip full of creepy, seemingly random visuals and loud audio. Before the bad psychedelic trip starts happening, The spirit in the house spends a good part of the middle portion gaslighting one of the girls, which I thought was funny until I realized the movie's probably doing that to me because I can't even tell when it's trying to be creepy or not. The fact that I could never get any footing at any point in this movie makes it feel very off-putting. Like what I was watching is otherworldly, and even though I didn't know what was going on, I enjoyed it. It wasn't really scary, but it had a horror-like atmosphere, which was very pleasant to enjoy. None of what I talked about is exclusive to Japanese horror or even representative of what Japanese horror is necessarily, but these movies are interesting. Admittedly, I was a little bored at first because a good part of the runtime is built up with barely any dialogue at all, but by the end, I was reminded of what made little me so scared, and it was not getting jump scared constantly, but this is what I got from these movies. If you're like me and you like horror, but usually only watch like mainstream American horror movies, I'd recommend giving these movies a shot. It's interesting at the very least to see different interpretations on what is considered horror. And so with that said, enjoy this jump scare. Bye bye.